As you can now tell, we are recording, so I will try to do my best here. So welcome. We appreciate you taking some time to join us today to talk about document capture, data capture in the healthcare market. We're going to go through a brief slide presentation to give you some insight to what we do for healthcare from a data capture standpoint, some of the case usages for the products that we represent. And then we're going to talk a little bit about ABBYY Flexi Capture, which is the product that we're going to be demonstrating today, and that's where Paula Sanders will be doing a live demonstration once I've completed this initial slideshow. So, as Olivia said, if you have any questions, just type them into the chat box, and we'll get to the questions here towards the end. So, in today's world, there are lots of challenges, lots of things that that face us every day, and really one of the big ones is how can we reduce our time and our cost, and how can we do more with less. So, we're going to talk about how I can reduce time spent by my staff doing manual data entry. How can I speed up the document processing to shorten up my accounts receivables time? How can I get things done faster? How can I make sure I meet my compliance rules and I avoid fines and fees because I can't get things processed and in a timely manner? And finally, how can I spend less time on document processing and use my more valuable time taking care of our customers or taking care of our patients? So these are kind of the things that we hear a lot about when we're talking with folks in the healthcare market. And let me be clear, on this webinar today, we have people who are HIMSS managers in the hospitals. We have people who are from insurance, healthcare insurance companies or workers' comp insurance companies. So there's kind of a mixed group of people here. So what we talk about, there's going to be a lot of overlap between the different areas, but I think you'll be able to see the way that the program works, where the product can help really companies in all different ways. So the areas that we can help with the ABBYY solution and with our experiences in patient registration, making sure that you're getting things captured quickly that are coming into you so you can get people into your system correctly. Patient records, even with the EMRs and electronic health, there are still paper documents coming into the organization. How can we streamline getting those into our EMRs and getting those taken care of? Patient satisfaction surveys, these are highly important coming in, and we're getting all kinds of surveys, things that people need to report back on, and how can we get these done in a more timely manner? Billing and claims processing, this is more along you have both the insurance and the healthcare side of the hospital side, but how can we get things done faster with less people doing it quicker and more accurately? And then in accounts receivables and EOB processing, again, there's a great chance here to speed up the process, make sure we're getting things reported on time, and we are getting paid as quickly as we can be paid. Paul is going to do a presentation, or her demonstration will be on EOB processing, but I think you'll see from it a lot of the possibilities that we can help you with this product. So we're going to talk about ABBYY, which is the solution that we're presenting to you here today for the healthcare market. And this is a product that's been in development since 1997. There's lots and lots of users, installations, as you can see. I think the number is probably closer to 2 billion pages a year that are being processed through these types of systems. ABBYY is an international company with locations all around the world. And here are just some of the customers and clients that they work with, just to give you an idea of their size and their reach and the scope of the projects and the people that they work with. So let's talk a little bit about the documents that you receive into your organization on a daily basis, and kind of how we categorize them or describe them when we're talking about a solution for data capture. So if we start on the left-hand side of this slide, you see the fixed forms. So these are the standard ones that come in. These are your claim forms. These are survey forms, things that we know that a certain piece of data is going to be located in a certain spot on that piece of paper. So in those, we can set up, everyone comes in, we take anchor points off of that document, and we know where to go look for that piece of data. So that's really a structured document or a fixed form. You go to the middle there, and that's semi-structured documents. So semi-structured is different in that we know that there are specific pieces of data on this form, but they're not always in the same place. So this is the area that the most big advancements in the technology have really come in the last few years, is our ability now to look on an entire page and find things like an invoice number, even though it may be different on every document that comes in. So this is really a great technology, and this is what Paul will be showing you with the EOBs later and talking about how that works. So semi-structure really has been the big advancement in what we can do. The third area there is unstructured documents. These are things that come in, correspondence, letters. You really don't know what's on them. You really don't know where it's at. But we do have the ability to look through these documents and find specific things. And we have a workers' compensation company that we've worked with that receives letters that have claim numbers embedded in them in different places. So we've been able to write it so that we can find that claim number within the letter or the correspondence that's coming in. That helps then the customer to get those attached to the right customer or the right client to make sure that that gets with their file and it gets processed. So when we look at documents, we're talking about one of three ways we're going to see them. They're going to be a fixed form, they're going to be semi-structured, or they're going to be completely unstructured. Okay? So the key features of this product is that superior data capture accuracy. ABBYY actually, their engine that does the OCR reading in these documents is used by a number of major software vendors for OCR type technology. So they really are the leader in the ability to capture the characters off of the documents that you are presenting to it. We also can do automated classification so that we can take multiple document types, scan them together, and the software has the ability to determine what type of document it is, apply the proper template to it, and separate those documents out into groups so that I don't have to put in pat sheets or barcode cover sheets or those kind of things any longer. I can do this now by the software actually looking at the document and determining what is the beginning page of a new document. So we can do things reading from a standpoint of OCR, which is optical character recognition. Okay, those are typewritten things on the document. ICR, which is your handwriting. OBR, OMR, those are check boxes, filling in radial dials, those types of things. So that's what we can look for and what we can read off of a document. The product can scale from a very small single setup where you have it all in one workstation to an enterprise-wide processing millions of documents every year and kind of everywhere in between. So this is a product that can fit into the smallest department that you may have a need for, into an enterprise-wide for the largest need that you may have within your organization. The other beauty of this product, it is really a horizontal product for your organization, meaning that I could be using ABBYY to process claims, but I also may be using it over in HR for onboarding. And I could also be using it over in accounting for accounts payable or accounts receivable. So an investment in this type of technology isn't limited to a very select part of your business, which makes it very powerful when you're looking to bring it in and get started with it and then let it help the rest of your organization. And then one of the final key features is that you can use this product either through a thick client or through your network type of solution where the software is loaded on the server and workstation, or you can also access it through thin clients or through the web. So through your intranet or the internet, you can get on and you can add documents to be read, you can do verification of these documents, from remote sites or from within your own organization, but through a thin client. So it gives you that option of doing it either way. So those are some of the key features of ABBYY. I'm going to walk you through kind of the different segments of a process for doing data capture from documents. This slide is a little busy, and at the top there's three bullets there that are of interest. But the main reason I want to show this slide is if you concentrate on the gray boxes kind of down through the middle, the lower half of the document, that really kind of gives us the steps in the process of bringing documents in and capturing the data off of them. So the first box says system setup and monitoring. So these are really, you have a project management where you can build these projects to read the different types of documents that you might have. So that's a project setup. You also have administrative and monitoring. So that's the ability to, as you're processing documents, to look and see where they're at in the flow, in your workflow, and how they're progressing. It also can tell you how many you've processed. It can give you reporting, things of that nature, but it gives the manager the ability to see where everything is at in the processes that you're running. So that's the first part of it. You've got your system set up, and then you are able to monitor the batches going forward. So let's talk about then the next box, which is input, and this is really where we're starting the actual process of bringing documents into the system to have them read. So I can scan documents into the process. I can set up a hot folder, and I can dump documents into it, things like PDF or TIFF documents. I can dump those into a hot folder, and that folder watches for them, and when it sees documents in there, it'll pull them into the system. I can also route incoming electronic faxes into a hot folder and pick those up the same way. So if you use something like WriteFax today to get your faxes in, you route those to a folder. ABBYY can monitor that folder and pull the documents in as well. You can set up an email address, and you can have documents emailed to that address. We'll monitor that address. We actually will pull the attachment from the email and start it into the process to do the reading of it. Okay, and then the last way that we can get documents in is through mobile capture. So it's an application you can use on your phone, take a picture, upload it to ABBYY, and then start it into the verification process or the recognition process to get that done. So there's a multitude of ways to get documents into the system. And one of the things here I want to highlight is that everyone deals with lots of paper documents, and for the most part, though, that number is decreasing. But what we are finding is that people are receiving more and more electronic documents. So that means they're getting PDFs mailed to them or emailed to them, or well, I guess you can't mail a PDF. You can email a PDF. But there's more of those type of documents coming into the organization where you still have to get the data off of them. You're just receiving them in an electronic format instead of paper. So this system can handle all those types of things as they come into you. So we bring the documents into the system. That's the input part of it. So the next step then is it will move on to recognition. And that is where then the software through the OCR, ICR technology will read the characters on the document. Okay, and then it's going to check the pieces of data that we need against a lot of rules that will help set up. And then it's going to output them over to us and tell us which ones need to be looked at further. So the recognition part is doing the reading of the document, it's applying the proper template, it's finding those pieces of data that we want to capture, and then it's applying the rules that we provided to make sure that we're getting good, accurate data. So after we've input the documents, we've done the recognition, now everything that in recognition the software wasn't certain about, it's going to present them to a verifier, which is a human that is going to look at each of the documents, the problem that the software had reading something, and it's going to give them a chance to correct it or to verify that, no, that was read properly. So that's the verification step in the process. So verification lets someone look at each document, make sure that if there are any problems with it, they can be corrected. That can be done remotely through a web browser, through a thin client, or being connected directly to the network client. And this really gives you the satisfaction to make sure that everything that is passed through the system is accurate and the data that we're collecting is accurate before it moves on to the final step. So once the document is fully verified and all the data on it has been fully verified as correct, then it goes to export. And from export, we can output that data into your databases, the images out into your repositories. If you're using a document management system, we can go into those. And there's really almost unlimited options at the export function. So those are really kind of the steps in the process. Documents are input. We run the recognition part of it, which happens behind the scenes, and then it presents anything that's uncertain about to the verification station, and that's where your employees look at the documents and do those reviews and corrections, and then export it out. So we're going to walk through just very quickly the different stages in just a little bit more detail. This is a quick look at the scanning for the documents. This is the interface. So the scan can be done thin client or thick client. It sets up all the parameters for the scanner. When you go online to do scanning remotely through the web client, it downloads the settings for the scanner. So this just keeps all the job setups and everything for you, and an interface that you use for doing the scanning. Then I can import images, PDFs, from, as I said, from the watch folder, from my email attachments. And then I also can integrate with any number of multifunction machines, which I'm sure many of you use multifunction machines to do some scanning in different areas. We can integrate with those and grab those documents and start them in the process as well. This is that import, this is that input part of the solution that gets things into the system and gets it started. So the next step here is, as part of that recognition, is we're going to do that document classification. So we're going to look at each one, and the way that it's laid out by the different landmarks on it, whether it's headers or logos or the text that's on it, we're going to be able to determine what document type that is, and we're going to be able to sort that into the correct category. We also at that time can assemble pages that go together. So for instance, if I had a 4-page claim, I can assemble that by seeing the like claim number or a user patient name. As I see multiple pages coming in, I can group those together. So again, this helps us be able to eliminate the need for separator sheets and barcode sheets. And then once I get the documents all sorted, I know what type they are, when I output them, I can put them into different work queues that you may have already set up so that they can get processed in the way that you want the work to be processed. Okay, so that's the classification part. So let's talk a little about the data types that are able to be pulled from these documents as we're reading them. So we have printed text. If you have the need, there are multiple languages. Being that it is an international company, over 180 languages are supported. We can also do handwriting, handprint, which is very important for a lot of the forms that come in, check mark recognition, barcodes. We can do multiple tables that within it, grab all the data from the tables and keep that data organized from that table and make the corresponding correlations, and then also repeating groups. The next step is an automatic validation of the data, and this is extremely important in making sure that what we're putting into your systems is correct and accurate data. So as we're reading information off the document, we can take a piece of data and validate that against existing data that you may already have in your system. So for instance, if I'm doing an insurance claim and I have a claim number, and within my system I have that information, when we read the claim number, we can take it, go to your system, check to make sure that is a valid claim number. And if we're also capturing the patient name, we can also check to make sure that what we captured as the patient name is the same thing that you have in your existing data. So by doing this, we're able to really verify that what we're reading is correct and that what has been entered onto the claim matches correct data in your system. The other thing we can do is we can make sure that the data is formatted in the correct way. So for instance, if you're putting a Social Security number, if I'm looking in a field for that type of value, I know that I want to apply the Social Security format. So if it doesn't match that, I know that there's a problem with it. Same way if I'm doing a zip code and I find a letter in the zip code, there's something wrong because that's the format for that should be all numbers. So we can do the validation of the data types as well. If we're doing something that has numbers or amounts in it that are totaled up, we can actually look at the numbers, read those numbers, total those numbers, and then if the total that we read on the document matches what we expect it to be, then we know we've got good reads on all those numbers and on the total. But if there's any mismatch in that, then we know there's an error. We can send that to a verifier to make that correction. All right, and if all those things aren't enough, we can write custom script to go do a lot of other validations. And we've done that for some of our customers where you can go even deeper into your systems and look at multiple fields and multiple value tables and be able to pull those pieces of data together and really do just about anything that you would need to do. So this is kind of the way the data that we can extract and the validations that we use to really make sure the data is accurate. Okay, so we've now recognized it. We've applied all those rules that we just talked about. So now we're going to go to the verification piece. And there's a couple ways that we can do verification. The first one is what they would call group verification, where in this instance, these are all the check boxes off of a document that we believe are marked as checked. So I could look at those, and those all look correct. That's great. If any of those really weren't check boxes, then I can make that correction here. I can also say, just show me specific fields. So give me all of the phone number fields off of this batch of work first. And so what you see here on the top is what the software read, and the bottom is a snippet of the image that that information was read from. So now you can do a comparison and make sure that it is correct. And we'll just give you all the phone numbers one after another. And then maybe we go on to the first names and then last names or whatever, however many fields that you might have. The beauty here is I can also break this up. So if this were a Social Security number, for instance, I could present you possibly with the first three numbers only from the Social Security number. Someone else may look at the next two and someone else the final four, so that no one ever sees that Social Security number together in one place. That really helps you with your privacy and with managing people, customer data that is highly sensitive. I could also set it up to say that I don't want certain people to ever do verification off of anything to do with Social Security number or particular types of documents. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. It really helps you with HIPAA and those types of things as you're trying to do it. So that's one way of doing the verification. The second way is more of a full document verification. So this is where I can see everything on the document and go through and make those changes as needed. So as you can see here, I've got all my fields on the right that I might need to enter. When I click on a specific field, it goes right to the document where that is and highlights it for me. So I can look through all parts of it and make sure I'm getting everything read correct. This is also where I have my rules, and all those things can be done, and I can see them here more easily than I can in the other view. So there's really two ways to do verification. You can mix and match them. You can change them as you go. It's really more of the customer preference of how they want to set the workflow up. But you've got those kind of options with this solution. So now I've got my data into the system. I've verified it. I know I've got good, clean data. So now I'm ready to export it or let it, release it out to wherever it may go. So I can send your images, and what typically ends up happening is I send the images in probably 3 or 4 or 5 key fields on to some type of document repository. That's where you guys go now today, and you look up, whatever it might be to get the document. I can also then export all of the data that I've collected off of the forms to separate databases, multiple systems. I can take part of the data and send it to one database. I could take another part of the data and send it to a different database. And really, there's no limit here as far as how many different ways you can send it out or where you want to send it to. It really is whatever you need for your, your business processes. There is an out-of-the-box connection to SharePoint. We've also done a lot of connections with, established ECM companies, the FileNet, the IBM, the AWDs, those kind of folks on base of the world. And as I said, we can simultaneously do all this at once. So once it's verified and you hit the release, it'll send us all those different things for us in the background that we have set up. All right, so that's kind of an overview here of the product. Give you some ideas of the things that you're going to see when Paula does the demonstration, and Paula will kind of show you those different steps as she walks through it. So at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Paula and ask her if we can get our demonstration going.
Yeah, I would like to verify if you could see my screen and hear me.
Paula, we can hear you. We don't see your screen at this second.
All right. Let me know when you can see my screen, please.
Oh, it says it's paused. There we go. Now we can see you.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much, Tim. All right. As Tim mentioned, I'm going to demonstrate the FlexiCapture product. We're going to start out today in the project setup station, which is usually where you go to set up your projects and define your layouts and templates. I'm doing the demonstration this way so we can see the batch as it goes through the system. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to create a batch. Now this can be done, set up automatically. You can configure the system to automatically bring in the batch and import the images in. As Tim mentioned earlier, these images can be ingested in through an email attachment. It can be ingested in through a scanner, an FTP site, a hot folder. If it's a hot folder, we can go out there and pull at intervals to bring that image in. So right now I'm simulating a scan. So we're going in. I've created a batch, and I've just imported in some images into the system. As you can see right now, we have 18 different image files. What's happening in the background is it's going through these images. It's classifying it, Tim had mentioned earlier, so it knows what kind of document type it is. And then it's doing the OCR in the document, and then it's going to extract the metadata. So we do a classification, we OCR it, we assemble the document, and extract that metadata. So we'll just let this process through. This will display what stage it's ready for, if there's export needed, or verification needed, or if it's ready to go for export. If it came through and automatically went in and was 100% confident, you'll see your status right here would be set to export, and actually it would release into your backend system. But for our demo purposes, we're having it go through the system. This also displays my confidence level. So out of the 89 characters that it read, there was 10% that were uncertain. And when it says uncertain, it could be just, it could be just that it wasn't sure if it was actually a 0, so it might have marked it. Maybe part of it got cut off. So we can set the confidence level for each field and tell if we want 20%, 40%, 60, or 80. What I'm going to step through first is going to be a group verification. And I'm going to go ahead and run verification. And what this does is there's some select fields that we set up. As you had seen in the slide presentation, I show you a snippet of the image, and I also show you it underneath. You'll notice that we have some characters that were marked in red. These are saying that it did not reach the confidence level for those, but they actually are correct. So at this point, I could verify that visually, or I could just hit enter to move to the next field. You'll notice here it's pulled off this date. So we've gone through, grabbed that date. There was also a confidence level, which you can adapt these. So if you're seeing that dashes might be coming out as marked as not reaching the confidence and it's in a date, you can configure it so it knows that there's supposed to be a dash or a slash or a hyphen there. The 8 that's red, go through. So we'll go through and we'll check these fields out. So this is a group verification. So it's grabbing these fields, giving me the information, and pulling it off. Very quickly, you'll notice that I'm now set for export. So if I was to go on to the next one, we're going to go verification again. I can go on, continue to the next document that's out there to be verified. And if somebody can mute their phones, I'm hearing a lot of background noise right now. I think *6. So I'm going to go through, verify this. So we'll just go through here. You'll see it brings me to each field, only stopping on the ones that are not met at the confidence level or if it has a concern about. You notice as I go through this document, even though it is highlighted in red, it is being read correctly. Was able to capture the information. So basically, instead of entering this in manually, I'm just verifying that the data that was extracted is correct. Okay, so what I'd like to show you now is this is actually a 2-page EOB, and this is all Mickey Mouse data. We are HIPAA compliant, so we have to be very careful that there's no PI on any of these documents. So I can go through, and you'll notice that this is an EOB out here. There's numerous tables that were pulled off, and I did not verify all that data. I only verified things that were not met at the confidence level that we needed to capture. So very quickly, using that data verification, I can verify that information, and then I can get ready to do it and export and go on to the next document. So that's one type of verification. So that would be your group verification or data verification. You also have the ability to go through and do what we call a form verification. So this actually shows me, I'll still see my red confidence levels, but it shows me the complete image on the side here, and it allows me to pull off this information. So let's say if this date was read incorrectly, as this one was here, and they are the same service date, we can zoom into the selection here, zoom in a little bit more here. Actually, it's a different one, but one thing I want to show you is if we had the same service dates and all the way down, you can actually highlight the first column and then say copy values to all rows, and it'll take that information and populate it down, which would make data verification very quick. We're going to go ahead and we'll modify this back to the actual data. And then at this point, I can set this up also to only stop on uncertain fields. So anything that is highlighted in red are the only times I'm going to stop. So I can quickly go through, see the information with the full entire image, and then so I've got both options to decide if I want to do a data verification or if I want to use the full form display with our full field verification. And once again, I can just verify the fields that are the confidence level is not matched or there might be a rule violation. We're going to go ahead, and this was read incorrectly. The information is across the line the same, so I'm just going to say copy values to all rows and continue on to the next. And this allows me to get through, oops, we'll go back to that one and verify that data quick. All right, so once all this information is verified, that's when we can send it to your backend system. Now this was one that was classified incorrectly. I can simply go through, or go ahead and remove this table. It's not needed. And then that information will go away. And then it'll go on to the next. Verify that, and I can pull it off. All right, so we'll just go through, and all this is not correct, but we'll just go ahead and verify this. And what will happen is it'll go down to the next document, it'll save it, and you'll notice I switched right over to go on to the next one. If there are any rule violations or anything in there, then it would stop me. Those have to be corrected. And when I mention rule violations, that could be, as we mentioned earlier, you can split up a Social Security number. So individual verification operators can see maybe the first 3 characters or just partial pieces of that. If there's rules that we're using for different tables, we can get the sum, total it up, and grab that information and make sure it is correct. You'll notice there is a lot of little background noise also on here. We do have the capability to deskew and despeckle, so the image cleanup process. so that can be cleaned up as you go. So when you're scanning that information in, we really want a clear white background to get the best data results off of it. So once you've gone through, verified that information, I'm going to go ahead and finish this one. It'll tell me verification is complete. I get set to the ready for export, and we can automatically export this out to our backend system. In this case, right now I'm exporting it out to a XML file, and then it could be available. We export out to SharePoint, as Tim mentioned. We can export out to a backend ECM system, XML file, Excel file, whatever your needs might be, and then we also allow custom exporting. You'll notice that the ready for stage is now changed to export. So we can just go out here. I'm going to browse out to our export directory. That's a different one. Pull this off, and it can pull off information that we want, either be in the line items. Sorry, all this is running on my laptop right now. All right, so then we can see that exported information. Let's see, it kind of froze up there, so let's just go back in here. Go into the line items. This will be the charges, so all your table information can be extracted off. And this can be in any kind of data format that you want. Like we mentioned, it can be exported out to a file. It can export out to backend database, SharePoint, so any ODBC compliant database. And there you go. Tim, I'm not sure if there was anything else we wanted to cover within the demo.
Paul, I don't know that there is. I think we have one question that was geared towards you. Can you quantify or comment? How much faster is a verification process than manually keying this, originally, or even dual keying it?
If we're extracting it, it would really depend on what your data entry person's speed rate is, but you're not having to enter everything in, every line item. So it can be done very quickly using like the data verification or group verification, because they're verifying it and they're just getting that data verified and then sent out to export. I don't have exactly statistics on what that time savings would be. That would be something that we can help you work out.
Okay. And I think that one of the things you can take from it is if you were manually keying all this, you can see the number of characters that are keyed off, that have been read off of each of the documents. If you look at the confidence levels, there's 85 in the first, 325 in the second, 982 keystrokes, and we're asking at this point to verify a very small percentage of those. So it's going to be much faster than starting from scratch and just manually keying all this in.
Right.
All right. Are there other questions? If you hit *6, you can unmute yourself, and we'll welcome any questions that you might have. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, Paula, thank you for joining us today and going through the demonstration of the product. Thanks to all of our attendees for joining us today. We will be sending you a link to a video recording of this session. If you'd like to see it again or pass it on to someone else in your organization, please feel free to do that. If you have any questions, feel free to email us or give us a call, and we'd be glad to talk about this more with you or do a more specific demonstration to maybe what your needs may be. So thank you very much. Hope you all have a good afternoon. Bye now.